What's up, guys? Brian Elwood of the Virtual Real Estate Investing Podcast. So this is the first time I have ever done a video along with the audio. So hopefully I can get through this and it won't be super awkward. For some reason, if you've never done this before, there's just something about being on camera that makes me more nervous than just talking into a microphone. But I'm sure it'll turn out just fine. So on today's episode, I was inspired to record on this topic because I think a lot of people mistake the concept of virtual real estate investing as only being something you would do if you're trying to invest in a market that's really far away from you currently and build a business from scratch there. There's actually a whole nother layer to this. There's a whole nother way that you can approach virtual investing. And really, once you understand what I'm going to talk about on this episode, you'll see that at the core of this concept of virtual real estate investing is a mindset more than anything else. It's a mindset. So let's dive into that a little bit. So when I first got started in real estate, I had a 50-50 business partner, and we had read the E-Myth book, right? So we would meet at my house a couple times a week in the morning, and we would have a strategy session is what we called it, where we would just close our computers and get out a pad of paper and a pen and just try to figure out what's the number one thing we could work on that would explode our real estate business and make the biggest impact, right? And we would craft our vision and the strategy that, around achieving that thing. It was so much fun. Those were the best and most productive hours that we ever spent on our business. And then right in the middle of those sessions, when we had these groundbreaking ideas coming out, one of our phones would ring. And at this time, he and I were the only employees in our company. So we were the acquisition managers and everything else for our company. And it would be a seller. The phone would ring, it would be a seller. And he would say, I want to meet you guys. In fact, I'll just tell you a story of a particular episode. A guy called. He seemed really desperate to sell his house. He was going through a lot of struggles in his life. He really needed out of the house. He wanted to be away from his wife because they were not getting along. He wanted to just, start over. And he's like, guys, please, I'm ready to sell my house. Come meet me right now. Let's work out a deal. And so my business partner and I got so excited. We threw down that pad of paper. We both hopped in his truck together and we drove over to this guy's house. And we ended up standing in the guy's backyard for 3 hours talking to him about his situation. He ended up telling us that he suspected his wife of cheating on him and all of this stuff. And he had been depressed and, telling us what he wanted to do. He wanted to move away. And I'm sitting there thinking that we're building really good rapport with this seller. Surely we're going to get this deal, right? And then only to find out that once we really got to the point where we were negotiating on price, something changed, and you could just tell he wasn't truly serious. He wasn't really ready to sell his house that day. I mean, I even raised our offer 2 or 3 times like a rookie, which you should never do. And he still would not agree to sign the contract. And so after 3+ hours of standing in this guy's backyard, learning about his whole life story, we left that house empty-handed, no contract signed. And we never even ended up getting that deal. I remember that one. We followed up over and over, and he ended up selling it to somebody else, I think. And so that very thing happened over and over again for literally about 2 years because we honestly did not know any better. We didn't know what to do. We thought that we had to do that. That's a very important part of the business, right? You talk to sellers, you go to their house, you run your repair estimate, you make offers, and you follow up, you negotiate. And we all know that's a very highly leverageable kind of activity as far as making money goes to do those things. The problem is that our business was maxing out each year at around $300,000 or so in gross revenue. And that's not a lot of take-home pay when you deduct marketing costs and you divide it between my 50-50 business partner and me. So we were really fed up because we were just in this cycle where we always wanted to work on the business, like the E-Myth said to, but we ended up getting sucked into working in the business instead. And so at the peak of our frustration, we kind of just threw our hands up and said, we got to get some help. We need to talk to somebody who's smarter than us and get their perspective on things. So we hired a really good business coach, a real estate business coach, and he charged $3,000 or $4,000 a month. So we were ready to take whatever he was going to tell us very seriously because we wanted to get our money's worth, right? So literally on the first call, we broke down what had been happening and told him a story about how we could never work on the business because we were always getting pulled away and doing the job of the acquisition manager and everything else. And he basically said, guys, why in the heck are you doing all this stuff yourself? Clearly, working with sellers and doing the job of the acquisition manager is your biggest time suck. Why don't you hire an acquisition manager to replace you in that area of your business? And I remember how I felt when he gave us that advice. The first kind of feeling that popped up was just resistance, honestly. I didn't want to let go of that part of the business and let somebody else do it. I didn't really want to hire anyone. I just didn't feel like anyone could do the job or any job better than I could. And that was a big, I guess, mental roadblock that I had that was keeping us at that $300,000 a year mark, is what I learned later. But we were paying him good money, like I said. So even though we were resistant to his advice, we ran the job ad, we did some interviews, and we hired a guy named Kyle. And Kyle was just out of college. I don't think he really had any sales experience whatsoever, but he was just a great guy. He really fit our company values, and we needed someone. And so we hired him. And we almost immediately just kind of threw him to the wolves. We directed all the calls to his cell phone, so we were not taking calls anymore, and we let him go on appointments. And for a couple weeks, he would come back empty-handed. He couldn't get any contracts signed. It was probably due to a lack of confidence or maybe a lack of lead volume in the early days. But honestly, like within 1 month, he started to bring back the contracts. And within 2 or 3 months, it was clear that he was outperforming us. In fact, he was beating us 3-1, even though he probably wasn't as good at sales as we were. The fact that he was going on appointments all day long and just making offers and following up diligently like you should, he outperformed us 3-1. And it was just based upon that sheer volume of activity. And so literally, when I told you we were kind of stuck at around $300,000 a year in revenue, but he tripled our contract volume. So literally within 12 calendar months, we went from that $300K mark to we broke $1 million in gross revenue. It was insane. And that huge leap in our business growth, I mainly attribute to the decision for us to replace ourselves in the area of our business that was eating up the most of our time, right? And so after that happened, we had so much time to spend on marketing and vision and strategy and all the other things we needed to be doing. That also was a catalyst that got us to the $1 million, because we were no longer getting interrupted and standing in someone's backyard for 3 freaking hours, right? And so kind of a light bulb went off. We kept working with our business coach, and we asked him, we want to start doing deals in Denver. We want to start doing deals in Houston. We had all these grand plans to flip properties and buy rentals all over the US and all the hottest markets. And our coach said, guys, you should probably make your business virtual in your own backyard before you even think about doing it in other markets. And so again, we listened to our coach, we took his advice, and we made a new rule. And the rule was that we were no longer allowed to leave our house. We were going to make our business in Tennessee such that we could run it from the phone and the computer, even though we were physically located there. So even if a lead came in and it was 5 houses down the street from me, I would not go over there and look at the house myself. Even once we bought it, I wouldn't go over there and manage the renovations or manage the tenant or any of that stuff. Anything that required my physical presence, I had to put someone else in place to do. And so we went through and did all those things. We hired an office manager to pay bills and go to the PO box and go to the title companies to attend all the closings and stuff like that. We hired a project manager to manage the contractors, right? And to go over and meet inspectors and termite inspectors and all those like things you have to do, and take pictures and videos of the property and upload it to Google Drive so that we could look at them. And really, once we had those three pieces in place, we no longer had to physically be in Tennessee anymore. And that's when I tested the theory by moving to Denver, Colorado. And my business partner soon followed me out here because his son lives here. And the business continued to function despite us not being physically located in Tennessee. Now, there were some bumps and bruises we took along the way. Some of our rehabs in particular went bad because we didn't have good systems in place for our project manager to follow. We overlooked some foundation issues several times. But honestly, I think those mistakes happened because of a lack of formal procedure to check each element of the house, not because we weren't physically there. I think even if I had physically gone over and looked at these houses myself, I would not have known that there was a foundation issue. That's not even an area of my expertise. So yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys that story on this episode because you see that the way that I got into this was actually making my own business a quote unquote virtual business before I even moved away from the city that the business was located in. And once I had it set up that way, I went on all kinds of vacations. I went to Maui, Hawaii for 2 weeks and ran the business from there. Went on a 3-week road trip across the US and ran the business while I was on the road trip, putting deals together, buying houses with no problem. All because we had a team of boots on the ground people to do the local work for us, right? And so now I would never do anything that required my physical presence because I had a shift in mindset because of that experience I went through. So if you guys have a local business and maybe you're not even sure that you want to move away or whatever, just know that you can set your business up so that you have the option of leaving whenever you want. So maybe you want to go on more vacations, or you want to be gone you want to go to Europe for a month every year or something like that and live in an Airbnb and run your business from there. And then if you want to move somewhere permanently, you can do all of that too. And once you figure this out, then you can basically duplicate it in a new market because you'll have that confidence that you can run a business virtually, a real estate business, right? Like nowadays, I honestly feel like I could open up in just about any city and run a real estate business there, as long as the city itself made sense and the economy and the numbers and the prices and all that made sense. I could find the deals, put the team together, and never really have to visit that city at all, maybe just once in the beginning before I decided to pull the trigger on it all together. So I hope that helps, guys. Really appreciate you listening to the show. If you have any questions about that, or if you have another question you want me to answer on a future episode, shoot me an email, brian@brianelwood.net. And if you're feeling frisky, I don't think I have any reviews on iTunes yet. I would love for you to hop on there and leave a review. Let me know what you think about the show. And then also you can check out our Facebook page. Just search for Virtual Real Estate Investing in Facebook. Make sure to like the page or follow it so you can keep up with everything that's going on. I will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.